Anime Abandon is made possible by the generous fans on Patreon. Thank you.
In 2024, it will be a full 16 years since the South Korean government began to fully support and help its country's pop culture industries to expand all across Asia and North America. Helped along by then nascent social media platforms, the term K-dash entered the vocabulary, distinguishing Korean entertainment in the form of pop and drama. Hitting inarguable peaks in terms of popularity, artistic achievement, and cultural impact, South Korean entertainment has gone beyond the mere fad, becoming part of a global pop culture landscape, to the point that in 2022, South Korea was no longer the dominant consumer of K-pop, with half of all CD sales coming from exports, while also lagging behind other countries in terms of streaming numbers. This impact has not gone unfelt here at Anime Abandon HQ, where we have dabbled in the, let's say, odd world of South Korean animation.
I just want to point out that the food's great here. Meat buns, boy.
Don't you realize Kakuris is the police captain?
However, it would be wrong to say that what we've talked about before is representative of the Korean animation industry today. Not just because the quality and standards have taken astronomical leaps forward.
That's the only weapon we've got. We should call Super Lynx to deal with them.
But because the industry is by and large dependent on being outsourced by Japanese and American animation studios. The prospect of Korean-produced, Korean-animated features for the Korean market is a dim one. The industry, by and large, exists within the very confining realm of children's programming and mascot-based net animations, as it has had a hell of a time making an honest-to-God international hit, be it television series or film. And as such, securing funding for animation projects have become a Herculean task, despite the growing popularity of the manhwa industry. To this day, animation remains an artistic and cultural lagging point behind the ever-dominant forces of K-pop and drama on the global stage. However, this isn't to say that no South Korean animated films have made their way to North America. And one such film is our topic today, 2002's My Beautiful Girl Mari. Licensed and released by ADV in 2005, My Beautiful Girl Mari was directed and co-written by South Korean animator Lee Sung-gang, who is probably the closest that South Korea has to a Hayao Miyazaki in terms of renown, legacy, and collective oeuvre. Although that distinction, flattering as it can be, sadly places an expectation on his work that is not only unnecessary, it often leads an audience to be disappointed from having said unnecessary expectations. But to be fair to Sung-gang, these comparisons are not without merit. To put it bluntly, Mari is an achingly beautiful film, with an aesthetic and style that feels almost storybook in both presentation and feel. The perfect atmosphere for a coming-of-age film about nostalgia, dreams, and our shaky grasp upon our childhood memories. This is My Beautiful Girl Mari. Part 1. Memories as Dreams. Nam-woo is your typical white-collar office worker, disconnected with his surroundings and very much drawn in on himself. Detached in job and relationships, he meets his seemingly only friend Jun-ho, who he hasn't seen in months, for dinner and drinks. The otherwise pleasant evening takes a sobering turn when it's revealed that Jun-ho is a couple days away from going on a 3-year transfer. The men can only reminisce on days gone by, as Jun-ho offers Nam-woo a memento from their childhood.
졸업하고 나서 잊고 있었는데 근데 이거 너한테 꼭 전해줘야 될 것 같더라고. 혹시 너 잊어버리고 있었던 거야?
From here, the film adopts a framed narrative to tell its story, as we delve into the memories of Nam-woo when he was a young boy. Perfectly contrasting the winter of adulthood with the summer of childhood, Nam-woo and Jun-ho's lives revolve around school and the complicated feelings they foster for girls. But even as a child, Nam-woo still seems detached and muted, if not outright bratty. And as we gain an insight to his life beyond homework and playing after school, we understand his reticence to be present in the moment. Jun-ho is only mere weeks away from moving to Seoul.
넌 나 가도 아무렇지 않지? 너란 녀석 옆에 누가 있든 없든 별로 상관없는 놈이니까.
준호야.
His mother has found a new man in her life, having lost her husband some years ago, and his very presence weighs on Nam-woo.
엄만?
저 병원에 할머니 간병해야 되니까.
And his grandmother's deteriorating health are all constant reminders of a very raw feeling. People leave.
할미는 점점 더 늙어가고 너는 점점 더 클 거고 결국엔 모두 떠나게 마련이야.
In a child's understanding of the world, it's only natural that they would want and need for a means to escape the harshness and seeming cruelty of reality. And so, Nam-woo finds a curious cat's eye marble that flickers a pale pink light that entices his imagination, making 1,000 promises of a world beyond what he can see. Guided by equal parts childlike fascination and loneliness, Nam-woo finds a means to enter another world through an abandoned lighthouse, where he meets a nameless, voiceless girl that he calls Mari. Because of the way the story tells itself, the audience never truly knows for sure whether or not Mari and the world she lives in truly exists, or if all of this is just a dream of a young boy.
말이.
Which is entirely the point. The film utilizes a lyrical manner of storytelling, where the literal is thrown to the side for the sake of creating an emotional, vibe-based telling. In this way, the visuals pair perfectly with how the plot reveals itself to the viewer. The style lacks hard, contrasting edges. There are no black lines delineating subject and the background, and thus colors are left alone to define shape, environment, and character, suggesting a world where separating one from another is a nearly impossible task, reflecting our inability to properly distinguish a memory from a dream.
꿈이었을 뿐이라고.
아니야. 그럴 리가 없어.
The film captures a very real and almost frightening sense of childhood loss in this way. I mean, I think it's pretty much universally accepted that we all collectively lose something on our way to adulthood. How many of us look back on when we were kids and feel like we're missing something? Gaps in our day-to-day lives, dreams and nightmares that thrilled and haunted us, the people that orbited our young lives and seemed like they would do so forever. To recall any of it is often an exercise in futility. To think back and rely on our memories as to what it was to be a child, the picture is always incomplete. And who's to say that what we can recall was what really happened? How much of our life is gone forever? Part 2. Dreams as Memories. To categorize My Beautiful Girl Mari as anime would be a difficult but not altogether incorrect thing to do. The film doesn't look like your typical anime film, but it does share a lot in common with certain kinds of anime films. Watching Mari for the first time, I couldn't help but be reminded of Jinro, especially with its soundtrack. And I should hope it goes without saying, but if you're reminding me of Jinro, that's a very good thing. While the colors are more vibrant and resplendent than they ever were in Jinro, Mari's use of subdued, understated animation and character design found in the likes of Jinro shines through in the many emotional moments of the story. I love how Mari captures Nam-woo's mopey, petulant mannerisms and affectations when his mother wants to go out with her new boyfriend. So too do I love Junho's gleeful, immature giggle fit he gives himself as he writes a love letter to the bossy Soo-gi. There is a wonderfully subtle but very real sense of raw emotion in these and many other moments. Through the hardships and the much-needed breaks of carefree wonder, the film realizes these fleeting memories as if they too were all a dream.
내가 가진 추억도 그렇게 작게 줄어들었지만 그때 잊지 않을 거라고 누군가한테 약속했었던 것 같은데.
The film's insistence on keeping one foot grounded, as it were, is even more striking when you compare it to other thematically related films, most notably the works of Makoto Shinkai. The base of Mari's story, a withdrawn and alienated boy pursuing a girl who is separated by some metaphysical means, is well within the wheelhouse of Shinkai, as he has built a career and filmography exploring this notion many a time, combining with the fact that Shinkai too often utilizes lyric storytelling to capture raw emotion, and the comparison almost draws itself. But the fundamental difference is that Makoto Shinkai's films are decidedly not emotionally subtle.
Kill me, please. I heard a voice telling me to keep on living and embrace my loss. You should have heard the same voice I did.
Shinkai's films are veritable Thomas Kinkade paintings, hyper-stylized and accentuated to the point of idealization. Food is that much more delicious looking, emotions are portrayed that much more intensely, stakes are that much more dire. It's the stuff of pure melodrama. In contrast, Mari is very much plain looking in both presentation and execution. Which isn't to say that Mari doesn't dabble in melodrama, especially toward the end, but that it arrives at its emotional truths in a completely different way. By showing restraint and allowing the borderline minimalist animation and character design to speak, the emotional core of the story is allowed to shine through unimpeded by bombast and exaggeration. In truth, Mari has much more in common, story and character-wise, with the likes of Where the Wild Things Are and A Monster Calls. All three films are about the same thing: a young boy escaping the harshness of reality and into fantasy. Whether it's Namwoo wanting to see Mari, all the while running away from the people he sees as leaving his life, or it's Max wanting to become king of the wild things to escape the certain heat death of the universe, or it's Connor telling himself fanciful stories to try and cure his deathly ill mother. The commonality of a boy being ill-equipped to handle the heavy burdens of life is unmistakable. Thankfully though, Mari doesn't dwell entirely on the darker side of childhood, as the film also captures the unique, carefree whimsy that a summer can bring to a kid. Playing in an old lighthouse, swimming and exploring under the docks, the film drips with authenticity. The only proper comparison I can make to this veritable celebration of being a kid during summer and other childhood pastimes is Calvin and Hobbes. To say nothing of the obvious parallels that both Hobbes and Mari are arguable figments of both Calvin and Namwoo's imagination respectively, or that Calvin and Namwoo are both bratty children who bear an all too petulant attitude toward their parents.
요, 가자.
나무야, 숙제 내놓고 가야지.
Both the film and the comic effortlessly capture an almost Walden-like feeling of letting go and centering yourself within nature. It's an intangible but poignant sensation that can only come about when you lay back and appreciate simple joys. It's incredibly rare that any one film can pack so much of what it means to be a child, both the good and the bad, and present it in a way that's just beautiful to behold. It's a visually arresting, true as true can be story of how our childhood can still remain with us, however long ago it might have been. It's just a shame that if you want to watch the film, you're gonna have to dig for it. Part 3, Digging in the Rough. The film only had the ADV release in North America, which wasn't perfect by any means. Besides the fact that the Carl Macek directed dub was lackluster in many ways.
Life's funny that way. Still, it seems like everyone leaves me too soon, like my dad. And now Jun-Ho too.
The footage itself is also riddled with interlacing issues, the probable result of a poor job converting from PAL to NTSC format. For a film as beautiful as My Beautiful Girl Mari, these issues really are a millstone around the proverbial neck. The DVD also lacks a lot of extra features, including a making-of feature that came with the Korean release, which would have been incredible to have. But this is the only DVD of My Beautiful Girl Mari that North America ever saw, and it's been out of print for over a decade. While the film enjoyed an international release as well as praise from critics, it did not do well financially, both in North America and in South Korea. Naturally, there doesn't seem to be much call for any kind of restoration or re-release. Though we have been enjoying a renaissance of new, restored releases of classic anime, including an honest-to-God re-release of Berserk, I'd be lying if I said I could see My Beautiful Girl Mari being re-released. As beautiful and as effective I find the film, it doesn't look like a traditional anime, and while I find that to be a part of its appeal, that does work against it in terms of marketing, as sad as it is to say. I hope though that I convinced you all to find yourself a means to watch the film. And who knows, maybe one day the film will finally get its due moment in the sun. Let's just keep our fingers crossed. In the meantime, next up on Anime Abandon, be prepared for some whiplash, Chimera. Thank you so much for watching. If you liked what you saw, please leave a like and comment and subscribe if you haven't. Every little bit helps the channel to grow. If you feel like supporting me more directly, I do have a store as well as a Patreon in the description box below. Please check them out and see if anything interests you. Once again, thank you for watching. Till next time.